In this video, we're ghost hunting again. We're not hunting ghosts of the paranormal nature, but historical ghosts. We're going to search for ghosts who wanted life everlasting. Come with us, and visit the House of David in Benton Harbor, Michigan, where thousands sought paradise on earth, and life everlasting.
During the 19th century, Americans experienced tremendous religious fervor throughout the country. People were trying to cope with their newfound freedoms won from a bloody Revolutionary War. Many new interpretations of Christianity were now being practiced, from the Shakers of New England to the exodus of the Mormons through the great western deserts. By the 1890s, while the country was still recovering from the horrors of our Civil War, more and more people were drawn to millennialism, those who believed in the second coming of Christ and his 1,000-year reign of peace on earth.
Ye shall not round the corners of thy head, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 27.
In 1903, an Ohio farmer named Benjamin Purnell awakened from an extraordinary dream. A white dove had perched on his shoulder, he said, and proclaimed him the sixth son of the house of David, empowered to unite the lost tribes of Israel in advance of Judgment Day.
The House of David story has fascinated the minds of millions for over a century. It was a place in Michigan that was surrounded by mystery, religion, romance, baseball, travel, sex or lack thereof, scandal, and huge wealth. It was all based on an unusual religious colony that called themselves the House of David. Their leader and founder, Benjamin Purnell, preached that he was teaching the way to have eternal life of the body and the way to live forever on earth.
As they tell it, they wandered for 7 years. What they were preaching this idea that Benjamin was the seventh messenger and that the day of reckoning or the millennium is close at hand. They wind up in Fostoria, Ohio, where they gathered a few converts to their way of thinking.
They came to Benton Harbor, Michigan in late 1902 for the purpose of meeting the Boschke brothers, Louis and Albert Boschke, to finance the beginning of the House of David Park.
And Benton Harbor looked like a good location for them to start this colony. Part of Benjamin and Mary's preaching was that if you follow us as the seventh messenger, you will have an eternal life.
Converts traveled from afar to hear the message, and many would join their colony, giving up all their worldly possessions in exchange for the promise of everlasting life.
Right away, they are able to start building, farming some land. They had a few followers that came with them and a few that they gained.
The House of David was intended to be an ingathering of the Jesuelite faith for people to come here from around the world to gather together, and 144,000 chosen people would step into paradise together.
They came from all corners of the globe to see what they were being told was paradise on earth.
It must have just seemed like a paradise to them, because farming is hard work. But then when you have people and it's a working colony and they're all together, and they all have a purpose and all of this, it just seemed, I think it just seemed right to them.
Those that joined spoke of feeling like they were at the gates of heaven as they arrived to trumpets and bands playing. Everyone in beautiful attire, magnificent horse and carriages, and elaborate mansions to call home. They flocked in by the thousands, and many would make their lives there forever. What began in early 1903 as a place of a new exciting Christian faith soon became so much more.
There's a famous picture of 85 Australians that joined on the same day, coming out of the ship canal in Benton Herbor, heading to the House of David, and they're playing musical instruments and singing, and amongst those people were actors and actresses and vaudeville talent. And so as people flocked in, they not only had massive amounts of members, but they had massive wealth, massive talent in music and all kinds of industries. And so that's how they grew and grew.
They had this idea that they were going to build an amusement park. Part of the reason was they had an ice cream parlor behind their Jerusalem building, and they were already attracting curiosity seekers. And that ice cream parlor was becoming an attractive nuisance. So if we could put it across the street in an amusement park, we can sort of kill two birds with one stone. We can make money on the tourist, and we can create housing and so forth for the impending ingathering.
They built so much. They had their own steamships and trolley cars and bus lines and hotels and restaurants and park hotel. They built the amusement park with the help of the Australian people that came in. Because of their brains, they knew about that type of thing.
Visitors arrived by the tens of thousands per week, and soon the House of David was one of the leading amusement parks in all the country. It would ultimately entertain nearly 100 million visitors before its demise.
Music was a fact of everyday life for the House of David members. It was a part of their personal life and integral to their worship. It was used for social functions and commercial enterprise. Their music reflected their heritage and expressed their religious values. It enabled personal growth and the achievement of communal goals. Almost every Israelite was involved in some form of musical expression. Adults played in men's bands and ladies' bands. Children played in children's bands. They formed comedy musical acts, string bands, marching bands, jazz bands, and dance orchestras. By the early 1920s, popular music in the U.S. was undergoing a jazz revolution. It appears that the 20-piece House of David Road Band was playing jazz no later than 1919. Late in 1920, the band reorganized as two 10-piece bands to focus exclusively on playing jazz. The House of David Blues was published in 1923 by a writing team headed by Elmer Schroebel. Together they wrote many of the most popular jazz tunes of that era. For over a half-century, the music of the House of David provided entertainment to the public, gaining fame nationally through the traveling vaudeville circuits of the 1920s and 30s. The colony's music industry was a major component of their economic success, which in turn had a significant impact on the development of Southwest Michigan. During the first half of the 20th century, the fame of the House of David was based as much on its musical talents as on any other facet of its organization. Traveling the world by train, bus, and boat, the House of David bands were managed by two different people. The orchestras were led by Manna Woodworth. The bands and memorable talent shows were led by Master of Ceremonies, Chick Bell. Having played before every U.S. president from Woodrow Wilson through President Gerald Ford, these House of David bands and orchestras were known around the globe as some of the most talented and entertaining musicians ever to walk the stage. America's obsession with baseball was influencing many of the young men at the colony, so Benjamin built yet another attraction, their very own ball field adjacent to the park. It was first used by a local team, the Speed Boys, managed by promoter Floyd Fitzsimmons. A second story of seats were added so the colony women could attend in their own gendered section. In 1914, the House of David sported their first team, which was managed by Francis Thorpe, a talented athlete from Iowa. At first, they played pickup games with local clubs, honing their skills and teamwork for future traveling competition.
By 1915, the House of David ball team was a profit-making endeavor. The ball club really excelled, and in only their second season, player-manager Francis Thorpe led his team on to win the Berrien County Championship. With the beginning of the 1917 season, the House of David had joined the Intercity Baseball Association of Chicago. Now the team could expand their competition by playing semi-pro clubs in Southwest Michigan, Northern Indiana, and naturally, teams in the Windy City. At the end of their first season as a traveling team, the House of David won the league championship. Their claim to fame in baseball history was underway. They were featured in Spalding's Baseball Guide of 1917 and in the 1919 New York Times. By now, even the young ladies of the colony were playing, and they were sensational, usually beating all comers. They were undefeated in their 1919 season. This was due to the fact that 6 of their players just happened to be young men. Look closely at the players standing behind the girls on the bench. They are Arthur Jackson and Dwight Zeke Boschke. Zeke would soon move up to the 1920 men's team, as seen in this photo. Baseball was an exciting attraction, with their home games drawing capacity crowds. The locals loved these bearded beauties. But despite all this fun with the national pastime, the colony would soon face controversy and scorn.
The 1920s saw Purnell and the community face charges of fraud and immorality. Following his death in 1927, the colony struggled until a split occurred in 1930. The divided communities survived for years before eventually declining due to an aging membership.
What's left of the House of David? Tours are no longer given. Only a few members survive. And they aren't giving interviews. There is a House of David museum, which contributed material for this project. We do have some footage from urban explorers who illegally entered the compound. When the current House of David survivors pass away, the House of David holdings will pass to the state of Michigan. It seems that the old adage about death and taxes trumps life everlasting.